Is an igloo a house? Watch this video and find out. All right, our Native American culture we're going to look at is from the Arctic and Subarctic. And I really want to be clear that this is very broad and generic, and that there are a lot of really specific things about different tribes that live in this area, but I'm just going to be very generic about it. So explore those other links to make sure you get all the information you need. All right, so living in the Arctic, one could assume that it would be cold in the winter, and you would be right. So it was very snowy and cold in the winter. But in the summer it was mild, and I don't mean the hot sauce or the sauce. I mean 60-degree, 70-degree weather, not humid, pretty much perfection in my eyes. That's what I grew up with in Alaska. Trees and vegetation, they didn't really have trees at all. They're going to have just kind of small plants. It's mostly going to be very flat, and the ground is going to usually be frozen most of the year. And so we're not going to have our trees, and it's going to be icy and cold and flat, so that's called a tundra. Some animals that they would hunt for food would be caribou, which is like a reindeer. They would have a lot of sea creatures that they would fish and hunt for. That was very important. They did a lot of hunting on the water, so fish, whale was really important to some of those tribes, specifically orca whales. And kind of small birds would be another animal that they would be able to hunt and they would see around. They created houses mostly underground because it was so cold and windy and flat. You'll notice in that picture there's not trees really. So any wood that they used to make these houses would be called driftwood. So it would come to them on the coastline on the ocean. And so the first question I asked you was about an igloo being a house. It's not a house. It was something that they used for hunting. So when they would go out to hunt for seal or caribou, they would build igloos to keep warm from that really cold weather. So it's not a house. No one ever lived in an igloo. They just stayed there overnight like camping. All right, so taking into account how they lived underground and the animals that they would hunt for, I want you to answer this question in your play posit. Do you think that this tribe was nomadic or more settled? Why? That's citing your evidence supporting your answer. All right. Second question you're going to look at in your play posit is you're going to make a hypothesis. So our stories that we tell are kind of defined by what we see around us. So in St. James, we tell stories of like grape harvest. We have the Grape Fall Festival. That's something that we do every year. That's because we grew up around places with a grape harvest being important. So if you think about the animals they would see, kind of the landscape they lived on, the weather, what might be some things that you think they might include in stories or in their religion or whatever? So answer that question. All right, and then make sure you check out the rest of those links for the Arctic and Subarctic.